Mark. Hi guys, how's everyone doing? They sent you an American for the 4th of July. I'm so excited to be here. How's everyone enjoying today? Awesome. I would ask you to make some noise, but I think that feels a little bit weird with the silent disco theme. So I am the CMO of a company called Movable Inc. Show of hands, who has heard of Movable Inc. before? It's okay. All right, a couple of you. Well, I'm excited to tell you a little bit more of Movable Inc. We personalize customer experience through automation and AI. And rest assured that your inboxes are actually overflowing with messages that we power for the world's most innovative brands. And I've actually been with Movable Inc. for 11 years. And prior to Movable Inc., I was on your side of the house. I was at American Express on the mobile and email team. And before that, I was at the agency side. I was at Ogilvy Interactive. But today, we are here to talk about how it is time for you to unlearn everything that you have been frantically learning over the past 7 months about AI. And when you think about AI, a little show of hands, do any of these images come to mind? A little Alicia Vikander, a little I Am Robot, and just for good measure, we've sprinkled in a little Arnold from Terminator, yes. When it comes to fiction or books or television, when we talk about AI, it almost never ends well for the humans, unfortunately. So we decided to send out a poll to our Movable Inc. clients and ask them, what are they thinking? What are their attitudes about AI? And here's what we found. An actual 22% are at the starting lines, and they're ready to implement AI. A whopping 60% are AI curious, but 21% are still holding back, and they need some reassurance, which is what I'm here to provide today. And this was interesting because we found that 64% of marketers still believe that decisions made based on instinct and experience perform better than AI. Okay, show of hands. Who here in the audience believes that their instincts and experience performs better than AI? We're not taking names, okay. Come on, don't be shy, come on, okay, all right. Well, that's interesting because we did a survey for our audience of one last year, and what we heard from consumers is that 2/3 of consumers don't believe that brands care about their personal preferences or interests. And that really underlines a real gap in marketing right now, that marketers are just really missing the mark. And our thesis is that the reason that marketers still believe that their instincts and experience are better than AI is because they've yet to find a solution that gives them that control, right? And the reason for this is because it's time to rethink the end-to-end experience. So who's heard of this book by Adam Grant, or who knows Adam Grant? Right, great, okay. So Adam Grant is this incredibly popular organizational psychologist in America. He's out of Wharton, and he writes this great book, which is about rethinking. And this is how he opens this book, by this great quote by George Bernard Shaw, a British author, of course. And in it, he says, "Progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything." And this is why we all come to conferences, of course, why we're not back in our stuffy offices or working from our little desks in our bedrooms right now, right, living in our little Zoom lives, because we want to change our minds, because we want to make these great leaps forward, right? But of course, changing our minds is one of the hardest things for us to do as leaders. And why is that? Well, Adam goes on to say it's because we often prefer the ease of hanging on to old views over the difficulty of grappling with new ones. And he chalks that up really to intellectual laziness. Ooh, ouch. And what he says is that one of the most important things for us to do as leaders is to really step forward and focus on unlearning and rethinking. And he says that this is the skill that really differentiates those who set themselves apart. Elite athletes, world leaders, even the humble CMO. And he goes on to say that the accelerating pace of change means that we need to question our beliefs more readily than ever before. And I'm sure that you've been feeling that over the past 7 months as you've been frantically learning about AI, right? As you've been thinking, what does this mean for the economy? What does this mean for my company, for my clients, for my organization, for my job, right? But the trouble is, rethinking is not just an individual skill. This is a collective capability, and it depends heavily on the culture. And there are so many levers to changing culture, right? This depends on modes of communication, mores, everything from artifacts and documents. And in our line of business, in CRM, there is no more sacredly held document than, of course, that great email calendar, right? I don't need to introduce this to you. You might be even the keeper of this in your organization, right? This is an archetypal email calendar for a retail organization. This is a 5-day email calendar that has AM and PM sends. These beautiful pastel blocks represent segmentation for each line of their business. And we see that this has been nicely curated. They've got some rudimentary segmentation, but I'm gonna let you in on a closely guarded secret within our industry. Each one of these blocks that has been well manicured and looks like it's been nicely maintained is completely arbitrary, right? You're telling me that home backyard oasis on 417 or women's blouses on 420 couldn't be sent on any other day and perform just as well? No, of course it could, right? And the reason I know that is because when I worked on the client side, often in the most junior role, it was my job to manage and place those dates. So obviously you've got calendar-driven dates, like for example, 4th of July, and you've got merchant-driven dates, like product releases, and then you've got your business conventions, like women's fashion goes out 10 times a month, men's fashion goes out 5 times a month, and you're placing those like Tetris. And then you're gonna have your business emergencies, like the creative director comes to you and it's like, oh my goodness, we're gonna have to retouch that image the date that it goes out. Or, oh, we found out we don't have the rights to that image. And you're scrambling like a DJ, and all of that sound and fury that happens at great expense and operational drama to your business happens, and you're dealing with this constantly. And the great tragedy of this all is that 80 to 90% of your audience never sees those emails. Let me bring that tragedy to life for you. Here's this beautiful perfect fit pant email that goes out Tuesday at 6 a.m. to this full file, and it has a very respectable 10% open rate. It's gonna go out and reach 500,000 people, and then poof, it's gone. It's not gonna sit on your kitchen table, and no one's gonna turn it over and see it again. That's it, it's over. All of that great hard work is gone into the ether. Now you could try and negotiate with someone and get back on that beautiful pastel email calendar, but we know that that's probably not going to happen. I'd like you to rethink an alternate future where it lives in a creative library for 60 days, it's one of 50 hero options, and it's redeployed and non-openers see it, and it's graduated into new categories. And ultimately, it's seen by 1.5 million people. How you like that alternative? Let's stop doing this, and let's start doing this. Anybody have one of those closely guarded email calendars for me to tear up? What's this? I'm gonna tear this up. Yes, let's do it, okay? Let's start unlearning, okay? We're gonna imagine a new future. We are gonna rethink a new reality where we are going to decouple the campaign from the creative. I know it's scary, but we can do this together, okay? Who's with me, right? Yes, thank you. I love this lady. Okay, this man with the beard too. You're with me. Okay, we're going together. We are going to decouple the campaign from the creative. Did she say conscious uncoupling? Maybe I did, okay? I'm here to introduce today Da Vinci from Movable Ink, which is our AI platform, and it relies on the concept of liberating ourselves from the burdensome campaign process, okay? And the first step is that we move on from that campaign calendar and live in this new reality. All right, the first step in our process is the marketer schedules this campaign. In this case, it's this full file where we have a 6 a.m. and a 1 p.m. send. The next step in our process, the marketer is going to select a template. In this case, we've got pre-designed templates with content blocks containing business rules and also guardrails. Here we see we've got editorial or promo in the hero, and at the bottom we've got a loyalty module. Here we see we've got spring handbags, which correspond also to the subject lines. But in this case here, we've got men's spring suiting. And because we've got a mention of a discount in that subject line, we see that the disclaimer also changes at the bottom. Wait a minute here, we talked about before how when there's AI involved, this does not end well for the humans. Okay, but with Da Vinci, I want you to understand that the marketer and the AI are working hand in glove together, and they are totally in control. In fact, one of the most popular parts of our platform is a feature called prohibitive pairing, which gives the marketer complete control to dictate which creatives are shown together and which pieces can never be shown together. And let me bring part of that to life. When I was at American Express, we had so many merchant pairings that could never be shown together. And we had this list that we had to manually QA. And if we had something that we could automate, this would have been a complete unlock for us. And that brings me to the third step in this process, the creative library, which contains, of course, the creative. So the marketer loads that content into the library, and that is comprised of course, the creative, and also the subject lines, the pre-header text, the URL, and the tags. And they live for a predefined period of time. Let's call it 60 days. So you load that up, and let's say you've got 50 different hero images that corresponds to 50 different subject lines. And so let's flash forward to the next day and our 6 a.m. send. You see that no two recipient receives the same email. Additionally, if your creative director comes to you and says, we've got to pull that hero image because I've got to retouch it, the creative library substitutes another hero automatically, and you don't have to take your entire send offline and wait for them to QA that image. And this is how clients like Land's End achieve sending 600,000 permutations without incredibly taxing their organization. Additionally, remember how I said the marketer and the machine are working hand in hand? While that hero is always dictated by the AI, that lower module can always be dictated by something else, such as a business rule like a 4th of July promo. The marketer and the machine are working hand in hand. All right, so I've talked to you about that 3-step process in the template and that ultimate result where the recipient is receiving those personalized results. But what's that AI that I keep alluding to, that Da Vinci? Let me dive in a little bit more. Okay, so Da Vinci is powered by a really interesting area of math called hyperbolic geometry. And I'm not gonna get all like A-level math on you in this cool, fun summer day and like ruin our conference vibe, but needless to say that it pulls from a variety of data sources to map the ideal customer journey to maximize both short and long-term conversions. Happy to get into this offline if you're really, really interested. But let me go into this retail customer scenario just to bring this to life. Okay, on this bar chart, our customer's emails are mapped in red, her purchases are mapped in blue, and her ideal purchases are mapped in, I guess, like a darker blue. I don't know, before it was in green. You'll believe me. Okay, so if we were to take a reinforcement approach and send her emails for things that she has purchased, carded, or abandoned, obviously we're going to be sending her emails for shoes. And this is a fine approach, but this is gonna wear out over time if this is our only approach. So let's say we take a content optimization approach and we do an A/B test to this file, and we determine that this file responds best to handbags. Again, this is a very solid approach, but this is gonna wear out if this is our only approach. But what if we take a combined approach and we use purposeful discovery to graduate this audience to dresses, denim, and beauty, and graduate them into new categories and products at an optimal time with high-performing content. And how do we know it's high-performing content? Because we're also using content optimization at the same time. And with each email, the model makes decisions to understand performance trade-offs, ultimately aiming at finding the right path for each individual customer, all with the goal of maximizing customer lifetime value. And that's what it's all about. And does it work? You betcha. Here's a great example from LL Bean, that iconic American outdoor retailer. You know them from those very chic canvas bags, which everybody monograms their name or like really sassy sayings onto. You've seen them on Instagram. They were looking to maximize this wave of COVID consumers that came to them during the pandemic and also revitalize their brand. And using DaVinci, they were able to decrease their reliance on promotions, which we know can be so problematic, and they were able to see an 18% lift in click-through rate and a 21% increase in revenue. Also realized a 1.4 billion personalized sends. You cannot even conceive of doing that manually, right? Additionally, this luxury retailer that also had a huge disengaged subscriber base used DaVinci to see a 30% lift in click-through rate and a 33% increase in revenue percent. And this wasn't on just a portion of their program, this was on their entire program in 2022. So I want to ask the 64% of marketers that think that their instincts are better than AI, is it time to rethink your email program? I would love to continue the conversation. I'm going to be in the Female Founder Lounge later. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And shameless plug, we have our conference in October when it will be a little bit cooler than it just got like 20 minutes ago. It's in a pretty scary sounding place called Houndsditch. I have discount codes and I'm going to have a couple comp codes later. So please come find me. My name's Allison Lindland. And again, here's my LinkedIn if you would love to connect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Allison.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you, Allison.